Hey everybody, Death Metal Bard here. Hope you guys are doing well. The intro to the OGL 1.1 has been leaked. I will attempt to put where I got this one from, so you guys can check it out for yourselves. It's roughly 15 pages, so it's not too terrible. But there are some things in it that, again, are, I think, just kind of reaffirming that shit's bad, man. Shit's bad, son. It's bad. Real bad. Okay. This is the intro. This is, blah, 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 makes sense here. Which is true that this one, it says here, a lot has changed over the last half century, including the rise of the internet, apps, Web 3, which is the web that we're on now, and VTTs. And so they're deciding to split the OGL into two pieces. One is a license that's covering non-commercial uses, and then one that's commercial. And it says here, this revised license is intended to protect the D&D brand by reducing creator confusion, preventing bad actors from tarnishing it, and preventing large businesses from profiting off it without proper checks and balances. There's hyperlinks, but they don't work. So that just kind of shows you something. Anyway. Here, this is the FAQ. It's just basically talking about, what is non-commercial and what would be considered commercial. And here it says, any form of payment or income for access to your work is involved or is specific to a particular work, even if it's just $1, is commercial. Which, again, makes sense. You're asking money for it. So that's, crowdfunding is commercial. Again, same thing. Here, I think it's kind of an interesting one. Is accepting voluntary donations via any tipping mechanism or sites where you're providing your content for free, regardless of those donations, is not. So essentially, if you're doing Patreon, for example, or Subscribestar, and you have your stuff up for free, and you say, hey, if you like what I make, if you want to give me a little bit of money for it, that's fine. Or if you have it on a website, for example, that's fine. It says your work must be given without strings attached if it's going to be considered non-commercial. Again, makes sense. Then you have your options. So again, if you're going to use the SRD content on a non-commercial, you would use the non-commercial. If you're going to make stuff for third-party on a commercial basis and only want to use material from the SRD, then you would get the OG commercial. If you were going to use their stuff, it's Dungeon Masters Guild. And if you want to make the videos or whatever, that's the fan content policy. Again, sounds all right so far. And this one, the commercial mean as a small creator. If you're making under 750,000, it's going to change very little, they say. But here's something, and is primarily designed to help us simply to know you better. Well, golly gee, let me highlight that. Well, golly gee, Wizard of the Coast just wants to get to know me better and be my friend. Oh, joy of joys. And then it says here, under the OGL, those creators will need to register their commercial content with us. Let's highlight that. So we know what's out there, tell us a bit about their products and product sales, and start adding a creator product badge to their material so that everyone in the community knows they're publishing under the license. So not only, so you'll need to register your material with them, and that they get to look at what it is you're making and your sales for that product. And not only that, you have to start putting a creator product badge on your material. So that means obviously you would put like probably it says created under OGL 1.1 or blah blah blah. Now again, like you have things like making Dungeons and Dragons is a labor of love for us, but it's also a business. We, like you, want to keep doing what we love and pushing D&D forward. The OGL was always intended to allow the community to help grow D&D and expand it creatively. Here they say it wasn't intended to subsidize large corporations, especially now that PDF is by far the most common form of distribution. So moving forward, hugely successful businesses that generate more than $750,000 of annual revenue, so yearly revenue, will also need to share some of that success with us by paying a royalty of 20 to 25% of the qualifying revenue they make in excess of $750,000. So that right there. So you have, again, like Kobold Press and tons of other, even Paizo, perhaps we could throw that in as well. These guys that generate more than $750,000 in their revenue, annual revenue, they will need to pay Wizards of the qualifying revenue. So, again, essentially 20 to 25% of any kind of revenue is a lot. So, and especially if you take it into consideration that places like Kickstarter, for example, which a lot of these companies do to kind of help get some of that initial money, kind of get a little bit more funds to help with the production of their products, are now, they already get a cut from that. So now they have to give not only Kickstarter and such a cut, but now they have to give Wizards an even bigger cut. So I don't see how even big successful businesses will be able to actively make money with this type of material. Here we have the how do I agree to the OGL commercial. It says anyone publishing content under the commercial license will need to register that content with us by creating an account at dndbeyond.com, providing us with identifying information such as the name of the person or entity creating the work, the title of the new work, a summary of the work, and once the work is available to others, a copy of the work. So not only are you having to put your information, if you're just a single person or if you're a company, you have to put down that information. You have to put down the title of the new information of the material you're making. You need to put a summary of it, and then once it's available, they get a copy that they can probably do with as they wish, as we'll see later on. And it says, when you complete the registration, you will be confirming your agreement to the terms of the commercial. And it says here, what if I don't like these terms and don't agree to the OGL commercial? That's fine. It just means you cannot earn income from any SRD-based D&D content you create on or after January 13th, 2023. And you will need to either operate under the non-commercial or strike a custom deal. So this part right here, if you say, well, I think these terms are draconian and are by extension going to choke my company out of any kind of sustainable income. Oh, that's okay. You don't have to, but you just won't make any money off of the content that you make. So you'll have to either use the non-commercial. So basically you'll have to put it out for free, or you can make a deal with us, a custom deal. And it says here, if you want to publish the base content on or after and commercialize it, you have to agree. Like, your only option is to agree. Hold on, there we go. Your only option is to agree. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going off of my very basic brains. But this sounds heavily like an extortion racket. This is an extortion racket of like the highest order in a sense. This is their explanation as to why they're subdividing it into commercial and non-commercial. And it just talks about how the old license, things like YouTube and apps and crowdfunding and all those things weren't really as big as they are now and have essentially helped to flourish RPGs. And they also say it wasn't intended to fund... Here, the OGL wasn't intended to fund major competitors, and it wasn't intended to allow people to make these things. We are updating it to make it very clear. Now, the wasn't intended to fund major competitors. That, I think, is a very key word. In fact, if I can... Maybe I can... I'm going to do that. The OGL wasn't intended to fund major competitors. That, I think, is a very key statement. It was, not the intention of the OGL to essentially help create competition with Dungeons and Dragons. Which, to be fair, the OGL did. You have Pathfinder, for example, and you have 13th Age, you have all these different systems that use the OGL as the basis for their material. So now that, those places are making money, they are essentially trying to block them from making that money because saying, oh, well, the OGL wasn't intended to let you make all that money. So you need to stop doing that. You need to give us a piece of that pie. Now here they're saying it, we're trying to make it more simplifying the language. Here's some weasel words and mushy mouth, whatever. We believe in the creativity and the goal of the old GL, and this new OGL in both commercial and non-commercial form is helping our incredible community to build and share campaigns, supplements, and other contents. And this is just the stuff here. Let's see if I can find where it was. Okay, this is the basic games mechanics. This is the usable content, which is licensed content. That basically means it's the SRD version 5.1. It includes basic game mechanics and curated selections of classes, monster spells, and items. You make content compatible with 5th edition, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then you have stuff like the unlicensed, which is content that has been or later will be produced as official. That is released by Wizards or any of its predecessors or successors and is not present in the SRD 5.1. Unlicensed content includes things like the most famous monsters, characters, spells, and all those things. Product identity. So basically, you can't use Vecna, you can't use the Forgotten Realms, you can't use, of course, like the Beholder and the Mind Flayer and things like that. Your use is specifically authorized by a separate agreement. If you want to include that content, you have to go through the Dungeon Masters Guild. Your content, these are the character spells, settings, spells, items, new rules, and other creations that you have crafted. They are your original contributions to the works that you want to sell. This license permits you to combine your content with the licensed content and commercially distribute the resulting works. Okay. And this is only if you create for use in role-playing games and game supplements, and only as printed media and static electronic files, such as EPUBs and PDFs. It does not allow the distribution of any other form of media. It does not apply to creation of anything else. So, literally all that you would be making with this is just printed books or PDFs of your material. So I guess that would mean that if you made something that you would want to put on Foundry, it's, a PDF, but it's just a PDF that you can use in Foundry. I guess that would not be allowed. Here we have the non-commercial only allows for the creation of role-playing games and supplements and printed media. Does not allow for anything else. So you can't, non-commercial, you can't do videos, VTTs, computer games, novels, apps, graphic novels, music, songs, dances, and pantomimes. This is, I wonder if like something like this is because of like TikTok. I wonder if they're like, because a lot of people do like D&D stuff with TikTok, and like maybe that has something to do with it. But they put it under fan content, so I mean I don't know. This is licensed work. This is again stuff that you make that's for them. Let's see. If and only if you fully comply with the terms and conditions of the agreement, you may copy, use, modify, distribute licensed content, meaning for free, not in exchange for money or anything of value. We may offer others the ability to use the licensed content or unlicensed content under any conditions we choose. Let me go back up here so I can check the. It contains both licensed content and your content does not contain unlicensed content. Okay. Now here, we may offer others the ability to use the licensed or unlicensed content under any conditions we choose. That is another thing that I think is very, very like, because essentially, this could mean that they could use, like when they say we may offer others, do they just mean others in their company? Does Wizards just mean that they can have, if they have people come in to write something or to do something, that they can let them use the licensed content or the unlicensed content? That right there, unlicensed, I think is a little iffy as well. Because I thought licensed content was only the stuff that you would be allowed to use. Unlicensed content, I think, is a little crazy. And it's under any conditions we choose. So if we choose to do something with your material, you have no say in the matter. You may not transfer your rights and duties under this agreement. It's not sub-licensable. But yeah, we can totally ask other people to use it. So it's kind of licensable. Okay, and commercial is you get paid for it. Money, crypto, barter. They try to be cheeky. Your brother doing your chores for a week, whatever. Does not include donations people give you to support your work, as long as you have access to your work for free, and if they choose to, and you inform them of that in a clear and obvious way. Now let's look at ownership. You agree that we own copyright, trademark, and patent rights, if any, in the licensed content and the unlicensed content. We reserve all rights not expressly given to you through this agreement. You agree to include any copyright or other rights notices included with the licensed content in your licensed works. You may not impose any additional, different, or inconsistent terms or conditions with respect to the licensed content in any license you grant to any licensed works. Again, I find it very funny that says you may not impose any additional, different, or inconsistent terms or conditions, whereas they can do so freely. And this one's identification. This one is, content in any manner. It would be like something like this. It says that you would cite, if you use something with SRD, you would have to cite it or put it in a separate list, index. Let's see here. Licensed works includes licensed content, which used to be called open game content. If the only way a reader can distinguish what you created from what we did is to check your licensed work against the SRD, you are not in compliance. We are letting you use licensed content for free because you are using it in a non-commercial basis. If you want to better protect your ownership, you may register under the OGL commercial. You agree that others can do the same with your work. And again, I'm getting a lot of extortionary vibes from this. If you want to better protect your ownership, you probably should register under the OGL commercial. Let's see. A is each time you distribute or otherwise make your work available, you offer the recipient a license to the work on same terms and conditions granted you under the license. You may not impose upon others any terms that alter, restrict, or otherwise change the terms of this license or the recipient's exercise of the rights granted under the license. You must distribute a copy of the license alongside your work. For clarity, the license should probably appear either at the front or the back of your book, but it has to be in the book. Again, that makes sense. Let's see. Keep on tactile. This one is just donations. This again, it just has to do with like your non-commercial. So if you put your stuff up for free and such, then you're fine. However, if any of your work is available only to subscribers, patrons, or any other word for people who give you money for access to it, then your non-work free work is subject to the commercial and it becomes revenue under that license. That is, so a lot of people who use, again, Patreon, Subscribestar for their stuff, and probably, some people make a bit of money on it. Then your stuff it's now commercial, so it's now revenue, so you need to give us a cut of that if you make a lot of money for it. This one, it's the warranties and disclaimers. And again, very basic stuff. You have to have the power of the authority. You comply with the requirements. Your works don't infringe on any intellectual properties. You will not state, suggest, or imply that your licensed work are endorsed by or associated with us, except that you must include the text in the OGL non-commercial within the body of the work to indicate that your licensed works are compliant. You will not violate the law. Again, this seems very standard stuff. You will not use any of the content works by Section 1 for any, bad stuff. And you will not do anything that could harm our reputation. Well, I mean, you're kind of already doing that with a lot of your stuff already. This says here, for purpose of clarity, this provision does not apply to criticism of Wizard of the Coast or the licensed content or unlicensed content that does not independently violate these provisions. So I wonder if this thing here is saying, they're saying, oh no, you can totally criticize us, except when we feel that you criticized us too much or you criticized us in a way we don't like, so now you're going to be in trouble about it. You will not attempt to circumvent or go around this agreement. Here we go. Here's termination. Modification. This agreement, along with the OGL commercial and update to 1.0a, which is no longer an authorized license agreement, we can modify or terminate this agreement for any reason whatsoever, provided within 30 days notice. We will provide notice of any changes by posting revisions on our websites. So again, the whole 30 days... the whole 30 days notice, again, that's too short a time to change anything. Or particularly if you've been working on something for months and, maybe, you do that, you give monthly reports on what you've been doing for Wizards, and, maybe someone gets back to you and says, oh yeah, you're doing, this is good, keep going for it, keep going. And, you get to the part where you're almost done, you're about to put it out, and they say, oh, you didn't do this, so we're gonna, sorry, your thing is terminated, or we're modifying it, so now you won't get paid for it. But we'll put it on our website, so that way you'll know. This is about the termination, so they can terminate it immediately if you infringe upon or misuse their intellectual property, violate any laws in relation to the activities, or if we determine in our sole discretion. Here's one. If we determine in our sole discretion that you have violated these things. Let me see if I can go up to section 7G. Is that even on here? There's this one and this one. I don't know. Is that? Yeah, here it is. Yeah. So, G, you will not violate the law in any way relating to this agreement. You will not use the content for harassing stuff, blah, blah, blah. We have the sole right to decide what conduct this is another one. We have the sole right to decide what conduct violates this. So, even if you say that what you've done does not violate it in any way, shape, or form, they say, no, it's ours. We get to decide. And in this one, you covenant and agree. Here we go. That you will not contest any such determination via a suit or a legal action. To the extent necessary and allowed by law, you waive any duty of good faith and fair dealing we would otherwise have in making any such determination. So not only can they terminate your contract or whatever, your license, at their whim, and they get to decide if it violated it or not, you don't get to contest it. You don't get to put a suit or another legal action against them. So, again, if they don't like something you do or you say, that they can just terminate you and you can't sue them about it for whatever it is that they terminated you for. You breach any term and condition, and that breach is not cured within 30 days of our providing you notice. Again, you bring action challenging our ownership or any patent. You may terminate this agreement at any time, providing us a written notice. Here's another thing. I'm not going to try and get into it all that much, but again, they say anything that would be very, very problematic material. But again, we're going to put here, or do anything we think triggers these provisions. Again, you could maybe you have a take on Twitter or, your politics in a space that has nothing to do with the material that you've made, at all. But they say, oh, that triggers something very problematic. Your contract is no longer licensed. You're going to be terminated. So you can't use it. Now, again, I've seen a lot of people say stuff like, oh, well, this is, completely the right wing is going to be. It's like, again, I don't want to get into politics. I'm just looking at this in a very basic format. In this very basic format, it's telling me it's the fact that they say we think triggers these provisions. So it's the fact that they think that you wrote something or you produced something, or let's even go crazy, you tweeted something that they think it was problematic. And maybe it's not even truly problematic. Maybe it's, they think. So we don't have to use that. And it says here, additionally, you waive any right to sue over our decision on the issues. Right here. There we go. So not only can they say, oh, we think you wrote something problematic, so your license is terminated, now you can't make any money off it. Now you don't have any right to sue us over this decision. So what we says goes. And, they say, blah, 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 objectionable under clause is too far. We will receive community pushback and bad PR, and we are more than open to being convinced that we made a strong decision, but nobody gets to use the threat of a lawsuit as part of an attempt to convince us. But what if, the person literally shows that it wasn't problematic at all? But you're still denying them the ability to lawfully show that you're wrong. Here's termination. Upon termination, you will cease all sales. Your obligation to pay royalties survives the termination of the agreement. So not only if you're terminated, you have to stop selling the material, you still have to pay royalties for them. If you get into legal trouble or get us, it's like if we are on the receiving end of these, this one is if they're on the receiving end of stuff that you've made, then you have to pay them for all their stuff. If a claim is raised against you in connection with a licensed work and you aren't defending such as a claim to our satisfaction, we have the right but not the obligation to take over the defense of that claim against you. If we do so, you will reimburse us for our costs and expenses related to the defense. I mean, I can kind of understand that. But again, it's the fact that if you're not defending such a claim to, again, our satisfaction, if you're not defending it the way that to our standard, we're going to take it over, but then you got to pay us for it. We may, at our discretion, seek to intervene in a case brought against you in order to join in the defense, while leaving you and your counsel in charge of your own defense. If we do so, we will defend at our own expense and cost. As for our RP, that's ours to defend. You will not have any obligation. Again, that stuff kind of makes sense. We can and won't cancel products out of fear that they be seen as similar. You agree that nothing prohibits us from developing... Okay, here. For other products, licensed works, you agree that nothing prohibits us from developing, distributing, selling, or promoting something that is substantially similar to the licensed work. So I'm wondering with this, does this mean that if they look at the licensed work and they go, oh, okay, well, we're going to do this, we're going to change this, and then we're going to promote it, and we're going to sell it, and it's substantially similar to what you produced, can't stop them. You own the new original content. You agree to give us a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide sub-licensable. Again, they can have sub-licensable, but you can't. License to use that content. For clarity, nothing gained in this section impacts your agreement to our licensed content, unlicensed content, or anything else you are not otherwise expressly authorized to use. You understand and agree that we are providing the permitted content as is and make no representation or warranty. Permitted. Okay. This is liability. We're giving you a license, not agreeing to take potential liability when we do so. Okay, sent email. The agreement year, unless otherwise stated. The Penal Forces Agreement consists of years and warrants. I think this is just regular other stuff. No waiver. If we fail to exercise any right we have under the agreement, that failure will not prevent us from exercising that right in the future. Assignment. Transfer those rights to another person unless we give you written permission to do so. We, in our sole discretion, will determine whether to allow you to transfer the rights granted to you. And this is the commercial. Any commercial use of licensed content is subject. Content covered and not. Categories for the creator. Okay, so usable licensed content. This is content SRD. This is the unlicensed. I think this is just the same stuff they had before. Yeah, this is just the comments. Okay, license work. Identification. You can identify content in any manner you want, whether it's using a different font or licensed content, putting an asterisk. Yeah, I think this is pretty much what it was in the other part. Expert tier. Okay, leveling up under this agreement. Okay, this agreement covers all commercial uses, whether they're profitable or not. Note that if you appear to have achieved great success, that is, consistently meeting or exceeding the expert tier qualifications below from producing OGL commercial content, we may reach out to you for a more custom and mutually beneficial licensing agreement. I find that very suspicious. That sounds very sus as well. Then you have your initiate. You know, if you've registered at least one licensed work, but you haven't generated 50,000 or more, and this is more in total gross revenue. It's just what you get initially. Even though earlier on it talked about annual revenue, which is a yearly revenue. And intermediate is you've graded more than 50,000, but you've made less than 750. And an expert is, of course, you make 750 or more. Okay, for one thing, it's Dungeons and Dragons, and even our lords play. It's possible we are not actually sure how to design something without some form of leveling up. That's, again, I'm trying to be cheeky, I think. But also, we're trying to minimize the burden on our creators as much as possible. As you'll see below, if you're an initiate, all we need from you is some basic information about what you've created and are offering for sale. Once you work your way to the intermediate tier, we'll ask you to provide annual. Yeah. Okay, again, once you've gotten to immediate, you'll provide annual financial reporting. See whether they're due. Excuse me. So, essentially, if you're not making that much money, they don't care. They might still take your material anyway, just because they think they might be able to make money off it. But once you make your way up to intermediate, then they'll start telling you to give them financial reports, like the government for your taxes, and see whether you need to pay us. Registration, no matter what tier you are in or how much money you believe your product will make, you must register with us and your license to work. You intend to offer a sale, going into filing out the form, and include a description of the license work, contact information. As soon as you make 50,000, means any income you make from selling a work licensed or from crowdfunding or any other income source. When you reach the intermediate tier, you'll need to, give them that information. Excuse me. Ugh. If and only if you are generating a significant amount of money, over 750,000 per year, the revenue you make from your licensed work in excess of 750,000 in a single calendar year is considered qualifying revenue, and you are responsible for paying us 20 to 25%. And right now, this is the agreement saying that by the 13th, no royalties will be due until next year, January of next year. So that way they can plan all this stuff out and blah, blah, blah. Payment tiers, if you're at initiate and immediate, you will pay 0. If you're licensed, crowdfunded sell via any platform other than Kickstarter, you'll get 25. If you do it on Kickstarter, which is their preferred crowdfunding platform. So if you use Indiegogo, sorry, you got to pay the 25. If you have more than one licensed work and some of your what's funded, you would pay royalties. Oh goodness, my throat. So much talking. Payment for a given year. I know I'm trying to go through this as much as I can and not talk too much. I think most of this is just what you would do with your Kickstarters and such. And this is attempt to circumvent. This is the thing for terminations. Upon terminations, miscellaneous notices, entire agreement, I think. Yeah. Okay. So, kind of going through a very basic manner, you can see that there is a lot of material there that will essentially allow them to use your material as they wish. And there are tons of lawyers going through this. And we'll see about this 9,000 page OGL thing that they got planned. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will make more videos as I can. Excuse me. See you next time. Rock on.